that's the same law that many January 6 protesters were actually charged under. Oh. He did the exact same thing. Wow. The exact same thing. $1,000 fine. Has read a letter of apology. Jamaal Bowman, this congressman and squad member, has pled guilty to a misdemeanor after pulling a fire alarm ahead, and this is very important, ahead of a Republican vote to prevent a government shutdown.
Another story that we've been following, a New York congressman says he will plead guilty to a misdemeanor for pulling a fire alarm inside
guilty
a congressional
to being
building
stupid.
last
Good.
month. Democrat Jamaal Bowman agreed to pay a $1,000 fine. He said he falsely pulled the alarm just before Republicans were kicking off a vote on a spending measure to keep the government running.
Oh, it was all an accident, wasn't it, Jamal? Come on.
Oh, yeah, you can clearly see.
There's a sign. We'll get to it in the video, but there's a sign there. He had to walk around to get to the door.
Speaking of signs.
How could he?
Oh, no.
How can you look at that video in court and with good conscience be like, not guilty?
No,
yeah, not guilty.
No, not guilty. That dude.
I'm gonna plead not guilty. I didn't do it.
By the way, I have a bit of a beef with how this all played out. But let me give you some of the history here. So October 25th, Bowman was charged with one misdemeanor count of false fire alarm. I didn't realize, false fire alarm. You know, it's like a penalty. It's like a false start in football. Yeah. What, a false fire alarm? Whatever.
10 yards.
But you can also imagine how the older folks in the building, they got to be really careful how they reacted to the sound of a fire alarm. Yeah, that's what happens. Those things never stop going off. Usually in the middle of the night when you have a newborn.
Oh, always.
Ugh, hate that.
Always.
October 26th, Senior Bowman cut a plea deal to serve time in jail. No. To be with the January Sixers. No. Nope. He's paying $1,000 and he's writing a letter. They basically sat down and said, you have to write a letter to your sister and apologize for hitting her, except he's writing it to the Capitol Police and saying, I'm sorry for pulling the fire alarm and making you guys, work.
We don't accept.
And, yeah, they should send it back. No. Right? If he does all of the above, then the charge will be withdrawn in 3 months and he'll have a clean record. Oh. He gets to write a little nice note. Hey, my bad. Pay a small fine. And then in 3 months, assuming he doesn't commit any additional crimes, which is probably unlikely.
Well, he's also marketing it now.
Keep them coming.
Thank you,
loves
Jack.
it. Yes, indeed. But
hey, that punishment though, that's literally softer than a slap on the wrist. This would hurt more.
I know.
Than $1,000 in a letter.
$1,000.
He's not going to write that letter, by the way.
No. He's going to campaign off of this and be like,
"Oh yeah,
I tried to stand up for everything we believe in, but they gonna find me for the fire alarm." it's effective.
Where'd that voice come from?
I assume he's Southern Baptist. I don't know. He stands by his claim, though, that it was all just a misunderstanding and he was totally not trying to stall a vote.
And looking forward to just, taking the deal, paying the fine, and in 3 months just being dismissed and
that's pretty close.
Continuing my work.
A lot of folks want to know why you didn't tell anybody when you pulled it.
Yeah, I mean, you remember that day, right? It was a lot going on. It was the vote to keep the government open. It was a motion to adjourn. So I was just in a rush, man, trying to get down the street. I was actually running to the Capitol at one point. So I was just in a hurry and didn't get a chance to do it. And,
And you're standing by your word that you did not have any intention to slow things. I mean, Democrats were trying to stall this vote on the House floor.
Yeah, hell no.
No, man. That wasn't me.
Me? Are you sure?
It wasn't me. Yeah, we have you on video. It wasn't me. You pulled the fire alarm. It wasn't me. What? Yeah, it wasn't me. I saw you standing by the door there.
I love that. I love that he kept lying like a kid.
I know.
He's like, oh, the lie's not working. Make up another lie. In fact, I was even running at one point, and I actually got on a Segway. I took a Segway for a while.
He just starts making up additional facts that are false. I love it. And he's like, there was a lot going on that day, right?
So
there
much.
was weather. The sun was shining.
There were cars outside.
I was confused by light. I don't know. I'm colorblind, so therefore you can't hold it against me. Look at that. None of these things make any difference to
They ran out of sesame seed bagels at the breakfast line. He had to get plain. Ugh,
somebody misgendered me earlier. Crazy. I didn't know what to do. So here's what a quote unquote, this video that was released, I think yesterday. Here's what a quote unquote misunderstanding looks like. Walks around the sign. I think he tries to open the door there, then pulls that sign down. Ow, no! I got confused and then purposefully went out of my way and then ran this way.
Retard alert!
That's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. So it looks like to me, and George, you had a little bit of a different opinion, right? You didn't think he tried to open the door, right?
Not at all.
What do you still think?
Well,
you got to look towards the mic just a little bit. So there you go.
Well, thank you. Even if you wanted to, I mean, I still think he's guilty.
He's still guilty, but so my point was when he walks up to that first door and kind of tries to push it open and kick it, the sign kind of falls, and so he kind of brushes it off, but then he does pull down the other sign and pull the fire alarm. You made a really good point. You said it looks like if that's true, he was trying to set off the fire alarm by going out that door, the emergency alarm that would sound, because he literally walked. Play that clip again. Right. Literally walks around the do not exit, fire exit sign. Right there. He walks around it. He knows it's there. So I would just.
Dick.
By the way.
That wasn't an impulse decision.
No.
Look how quickly and deliberate that was.
It was absolutely deliberate. Like this guy was trying to do something that would cause this vote not to happen. I'm 100% convinced of that. And I think you can make a very compelling case with footage. Here's my problem. They didn't release that initially.
No.
What they released initially was just a still photo of him doing his thing and pulling the alarm, and that gave him the opportunity to be like, oh, no, it was a misunderstanding. So here's what happens. Every single person out there who doesn't pay attention to this story going forward thinks it was just a misunderstanding. They don't have any reason. They're like, hey, did you hear Jamaal? No, I don't, whatever. Oh, they said he did it on purpose. Whatever. It seems like it was a misunderstanding. Because they did this the way they did it, instead of just releasing the footage of what happened, they gave him an out. I want to know who's covering for this guy. Who is covering for him by not releasing to us this information? It seems like a bit of a pattern here with video in Capitol buildings not being released at the same time as maybe other images or other videos are being released in the hopes of maybe making something seem that it's bigger than it is. We'll get to that in just 1 second. But by the way, here's what was going on. The House Democrats really wanted to stall this vote, as it said in that video, because this was the continuing resolution bill vote, because it did not have Ukraine funding. I don't think continuing resolution is a bill necessarily, but don't hang me on that. But it didn't have funding for Ukraine. And so this is the plan from the Democrats. They hoped to delay so that the Senate could move first on their own clean CR with Ukraine funding added. So now we have motive. He obviously had the opportunity. This guy knew that they needed a delay, that they weren't going to get it, and that the only way that he could make that happen is by pulling the firearm potentially and seeing what happened from there. And then he said he just got confused. But
do you think that it was just him?
No.
Or do you think he's a patsy?
This is a patsy.
He's definitely, somebody told him to do it.
I think, because I'd never heard of this guy.
No. Well, I had heard of him. He was the same guy who was standing in the hall yelling about the guns. How many children should die? How many guns? He's that guy. And we covered him, and we did a segment. By the way, if you don't know much about him, like you just said, we did a segment on him. What a piece of, what is it, Tim?
A piece of shit.
There you go. Yeah.
Yes.
Tim sticks the landing on that word, so I let him say it.
Because he is.
Yeah,
That's
because he
calls strikes.
Yes. There's other things that you could say. They might sound
it's a
bad.
Sports show in the second.
Yeah. So balls and
yeah.
I don't know if he still has his, but nonetheless, he did avoid federal charges under 18 U.S.C. 1505, obstruction of Congress. And that's a federal crime, by the way, with a penalty of up to 5 years in prison. So that sounds pretty serious.
How would you know that?
The reason is, that's the same law that many January 6 protesters were actually charged under. Oh. He did the exact same thing. Wow. The exact same thing. The exact same thing. $1,000 fine. Has read a letter of apology.
Well,
when it comes to the left,
a lot of those protesters never pulled a fire alarm.
Well, if they had,
execution.
That's another 5 years.
Yeah, throw them in.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine right now being a January 6th person? I don't want to say protester or somebody who actually broke the law. Some people did break the law and deserve to have some kind of punishment, whatever that is.
Sure.
But these trumped up charges that they have against them. and they're facing 10 years in prison and being separated from their family simply for, and I'm not talking about the guys who did beat up some police officers or did accost them. There was a couple of police officers that were hurt. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the guys who destroyed property. Not talking about that. That's a crime, George, right? Destroying property? Still a crime?
Absolutely.
Still a crime. Okay. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the people who literally just walked through the Capitol on what appeared to be a guided tour based on the video that we're seeing. So separate the people who broke laws. We know they broke laws, period. Fine. Done. I'm talking about people who are facing jail time simply for walking around the Congress, walking around the building. Can you imagine being one of those people, one of those people's wives, one of those people's husbands, children, and then seeing this and going, he got a $1,000 fine and had to write a letter of apology?
These people are still in jail.
Do you think that's justice? Do you think that you live in a country that's just when stuff like that happens? It pisses me off because, guys, this is not a right or a left thing. This is about having a different standard of law being applied to other people because they happen to be in the politically correct party and not protesting because they like a guy who maybe is a little brash and says some things that you don't like and mean tweets. But you're using the Department of Justice as a weapon. And it's so obvious with Hunter Biden, with Jamaal Bowman, with Hillary Clinton, that they can get away with whatever they want. But the minute somebody does something on the right, they come after them full force. And by, somebody on the right doing something, it's a parent going to a PTA meeting and basically saying, hey, that guy that has a penis shouldn't be in the bathroom with my daughter. We should probably lock that guy up. He's a white supremacist and extremist, according to our DOJ. So,
and a radical and a bad guy. That's the thing that they do. Yeah, radical. That was so perfect. That's what they do. They try to make it seem like if you're on the right, you're a radical and you're a bad guy. And if you're on the left, you're just a good person who made a mistake.
Oh, that's right. These protesters out here burning cars, that's what they should be doing because they've been oppressed.
And they're good people.
They're good people.
They're just a little confused. They're troubled. They made a mistake.
Well, do me a favor. Hit like if you think Senior Bowman should have gotten the January 6th treatment in this case. Or how about this? I have an even better idea. Do me a favor. Now hit like if you think that maybe January 6th guys ought to get the Bowman treatment. Watch Slider with Crowder live Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.